Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Endless Urgency. I am really, really grateful to be here with one of my favorite content creators, my favorite voices online, which is Jess Craven, who is an amazing human being. And I hope we're going to have a great conversation today. And I have had to reschedule on Jess so many times. This live has been cursed. And I'm really glad that we are here. While we're getting started, if you could please hit the heart button for us to move it up the algorithm so more people join and get to see our conversation. It also helps later when we put it out. More people get to see it, the more that you like it throughout. It's not just for my own vanity. And then tell us where you're watching this from. Drop in any questions, comments, concerns you have for Jess or I. I'll do my best to work them in as we go. And we're going to be talking about a few different topics today. Jimmy Kimmel has been uncanceled. We're going to start there because that's the obvious place to be. We're going to talk about RFK and blaming autism on Tylenol, which is bizarre. We're going to talk about Tom Homan taking a $50,000 bribe, and we're going to talk about God knows what else happened today, because honestly, this has been a big news day, frankly. It felt like all the news was waiting for the Charlie Kirk Memorial, and then now we've had like a flood of it today. So let's get in and start with just, I'm actually going to start somewhere else, which is, how are you doing? Because it's just been a rough 2 weeks. How are you holding up? We'll just start there.
I mean, I think I'm actually doing okay. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on, Mike. I think I'm doing better than you probably are. I think you had a really rough bout with Laura Loomer, which had me very worried. I have been, it's been exhausting. I think being a content creator right now is exhausting, but when you put that in the sort of grander scheme of how hard this time is for other people, it's fine. It's really hard, but whatever, man. It's a hard time for everybody. It's a much harder time for a lot of other people. So it's tough, but this is a good moment. I'd say that right now, we got a victory and it feels really good,
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, like, I always put it in the context of, like, yes, I'm online a lot. So, like, I have to follow the news, like, every day, like you do. I'm also, like, I work in the space, so I need to know what's going on to advise my clients. But how much does the average person just be feeling right now? Because it's so much news and it's so scary. And I especially think on Kirk. And I'm sort of like, I would like to move on from Kirk for the moment, but I'm going to say one thing about it, which is what happened a week and a half ago now, almost 2 weeks ago, is one of the scarier things that's happened in my adult lifetime relative to politics. And so, and then to live in a nation where the elected leaders are not ramping the rhetoric down, they're increasing the rhetoric and they're getting scarier. Like, I think the average person is freaked out. But I will pivot now to Kimmel here, because I'll tell you something that I find interesting. So I have my youngest brother is 30. He is not very political. And he, like, now he voted for Kamala. He's a good dude. He's probably, I would say, like, maybe like he might be like right of center, but like in this environment, he's certainly not voting for the Republicans. And he was like, I've seen nothing in my feed about Charlie Kirk. The only person who's told me about it is like you or my wife. And he's like, but I saw a ton about Jimmy Kimmel. And I do think what happened to Jimmy Kimmel and the hubris of the Trump administration to use the FCC in that way did kind of break through, because the comedian wing of our politics now, which is a legit force to be reckoned with, and I think we need to probably deal with that, deal with the reality of that it exists. They turned on Trump and MAGA really hard on this, and it's part of the reason I think Jimmy Kimmel's getting his show back. And for folks who haven't seen it, the news broke basically like 30 minutes ago. ABC has decided they're going to let Kimmel come back tomorrow night. They put out a statement saying that they decided to suspend it for a couple of days just because of the climate. Now they're giving him a show back. Now, I don't know that means that Jimmy Kimmel is safe in his spot or anything. I'll sort of say the same thing, and then I'll hand it back to you that I've been saying for the last couple of days, Jess, which is, I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel. I've never watched an episode of Jimmy Kimmel. When I believe him to be a decent human being, every time I've ever heard anything about him, it sounds pretty positive. I know him as the guy who co-hosted Win Ben Stein's Money when I was a kid. Like, that's how I see him. And I've always been a Colbert and a Conan guy. But, what happened to him was wrong. I fear that, like, his days are numbered, not so much because of Trump necessarily, but because the format is dying and his ratings are kind of poor because people are moving to other platforms. But certainly this is a win for free speech, because what Trump did with the FCC is wrong.
Oh yeah, it's symbolically, it's so huge. And yeah, of course, like that, all those network, channels and that format is dying. He will move over to social media and YouTube and find other ways to do what he does.
He'll have a massive Substack like that.
Right, exactly. I don't watch any late night shows. Like, I think Jimmy Kimmel seems great. I think that it is fantastic what has happened today. I wish it had also happened for Colbert. I think what happened was that one was really terrible, but could be sort of seen as an anomaly. And when the second one happened, and especially at the hands of Disney, who makes a lot of money off of pretending to be the, like, the Andor, studio, that have just made a lot of money on sort of the American myth in different ways. and to then back this, knowing that there was no financial reason they couldn't go up against the Trump administration, I think it really just hit people in a very visceral way. I mean, I went to that Disney protest on Friday right after this all happened, and like the number of people who turned out there just with like an hour's notice was really stunning. And it was a lot of people I have not seen at other protests before. There were a lot of men there. There were a lot of young people there. I think everybody, right, left, center, wherever you are in the political spectrum, we all understand that freedom of speech is fundamental. And when you start going up against it and coming after it, not even only because you don't like what the person is saying, but there's this corrupt business thing behind it, this merger thing where like people are just looking to get rich and it's just too much. I think it's too much. And I think there is a point at which Americans do overlap, and they found that point. And
Yeah.
America spoke up. It was great to see.
And it broke through again. There's those moments that break through. Like, look, you and I are very online. We are very politically engaged. We know everything that basically happens. I probably still only know like 70% of what happens. I feel like I have a conversation with someone like you, and they're like, "Did you see that Donald Trump did this?" And I'm like, "No." Like, how can I keep up? But there's just so much. But when things break through culturally like this, where you see a Jimmy Kimmel thing, where my brother is like, that feels wrong and is dangerous. My brother would like, the only time he ever calls me is like Scrubs memes, college football, and like kid updates. Like that's it. And so he's calling me and going, Jimmy Kimmel got fired. What the hell's going on with that? Should I be worried? Like, yes, you should be worried. That's your entry point to go, there's a lot of other bad stuff happening here. Let me walk you through it. And that for me with my brother was good. And I think with these comedians, I don't know if you've seen Andrew Schultz put out this like 3-minute video. He's shooting a movie, I guess, in Australia right now. And he's a big comedian. He's the guy that Pete Buttigieg was on a show, Bernie Sanders on a show a couple months ago. He put out this big long video about how it was wrong. Now the video is filled with like a bunch of stuff that like I don't particularly find funny, which is fine. He has the right to make that. But it was a very forceful statement in defense of free speech and calling out what Jimmy Kimmel did was wrong. Barry Weiss, who's about to take over CBS, put out and said that it was wrong. Like there was a lot of pushback here. Meanwhile, the far right, the Laura Loomers, the Matt Walshes of the world were dancing on Jimmy Kimmel's grave. And I kept noting that like ABC was pretty careful. They kept saying suspended. Yeah. I always sort of believed he would get his show back. Now, I don't know that that means that when his contract is up, it's getting renewed. I still think he should be thinking about what his next phase looks like. Now maybe he has an opportunity to do it on his own terms instead of what happened to Colbert, where one day he's got a job, next day he doesn't. So that's good. The thing about ESPN, I want to make this point. I want to sort of connect two cultural and business things together because I am steeped in this because I'm a big pro wrestling fan. And I don't know if you know this, but Disney owns ESPN, right? Or Disney owns ABC, ABC owns ESPN or some shit like that. And they're rolling out this ESPN Plus app, which is their streaming service for UFC fights, pro wrestling. This Saturday, they had their very first streamed pro wrestling pay-per-view. My son worked all week to do what he had to do because my son has a little bit of issue keeping his hands to himself. And I told him, like, if you have a good week and I don't get any reports from the teacher, you can watch a little pro wrestling with me Saturday night. And we do it, and they're rolling that out, this app, this weekend. This last week has been the big roll, and I had to download it, get a subscription to it. And I was a little bit hesitant to do it because I was mad about the Kimmel stuff. But I promised my son I would do it, so I spent the $30. And I'm thinking about it now in the context of this is they're trying to roll out this new product. They're trying to get their shareholders excited about it. They're trying to get their advertisers excited about it. And what are they talking about? They're talking about Jimmy Kimmel. They're talking about politics. They're talking about MAGA. They're talking about Charlie Kirk. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about this. They want to roll out how successful, hopefully for them, this has been. And I bet given the fact that there's a massive bundle package they're pushing between Disney, Hulu, and WWE, or the ESPN, excuse me, which I believe they're all just going to merge into one giant app eventually, they're probably not getting the numbers that they want. And that's part of the reason they had to push this back. It was a good reminder that for all the bluster from the right about how strong they are and how culturally ascendant they are, there are way more of us than there are of them. And we should never fucking forget that, even when we win a close election.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, first of all, Mike, let me just say, one election that we did lose by a narrow margin. Before that, I want to remind everybody, we won every single fucking election before that for like the past 8 years. So yes, we lost in that one election. I just want to say, first of all, like we do win a lot of elections. And since then, we've been winning by an average of 15, 16 points. We've been overperforming. So that's one thing. But yeah,
in the special elections, yeah.
In the special elections,
yeah.
Yes, thank you. It is so important for Americans to understand that their dollar is the most powerful, sadly, almost more important than our vote at this point. And that is a sad state of affairs. But when we as consumers come together and say, we are not going to give our money to XYZ anymore as long as they support fascism. When we do it with this much common commitment, look what happened. That took 4 days, right? Because they've already seen what we did to Target. They've already seen what we did to Tesla. And now the next company has just seen what we just did to Disney. And, a lot of people who left are not coming back. I know I've got a sibling who already said, I'm not going back. Someone on the comments just said, I'm not going back. I will likely not go back. I mean, I wasn't subscribing to Disney anyway, but Hulu, we have long memories now, right? And now that we've entered this phase of really fighting fascism like this, for me, once a brand has done something like Disney, ABC just did, they're tarnished forever. And so I just want to really encourage people to continue to think about your consumer choices. Because when enough of us come together and say, we're not going to give you our money anymore, we can make massive change. And it's a power we should use. And just the final thing I'll say is the left has immensely more purchasing power than the right. I know we always think of the right as being like, Charles Koch and the big billionaires, but a lot of Trump's base are not wealthy people. There are many, many, many people on the left with a huge amount of purchasing power, and they have the power to influence what companies and politicians do simply by altering their purchasing power. So do remember it. Do remember it, please.
And now, much like Target, Disney is going to have to re-earn that capital that they had.
They are.
They actually had, I mean, look, you made their last year, they built so much of their capital around Andor. And Andor is a phenomenal 2-season show. I was obsessed with it. At the time, anybody who would talk to me about it, I would talk to them about it because I was so obsessed with it. And now I maybe got a little bit like eye-rolly when things would happen and people on Twitter would be like, we are the Gore. And I'm like, all right, let's, there's a little bit of that I don't. A little bit of that like performative liberal stuff that I just kind of like roll my eyes at, or like when I'm on like Newsmax or something and they show me a video of like liberals singing at a protest and I'm like, don't make me.
Yeah, no.
But and which is fine. I mean, people do what you want when you're at a protest. I love every single one of you. But like, they're now going to have to reassert their place in society. And it's Disney. Like, Disney's not going to go anywhere. It's a massive machine.
Yep.
It's going to, like, I don't think it goes anywhere. It takes its hit and it comes back. Like, honestly, if you're an investor, it's a good time to buy. Yesterday was a good time to buy. And they're going to launch Light back, but like, they're going to have to earn it back. And they're going to have to earn it back through good content. And they're going to have to earn it back through making the right choices. And again, I'm not convinced that this Kimmel thing is over because Trump is going to have his response. He's going to have a late night Truth Social rant about how horrible Jimmy Kimmel is. The MAGA movement's going to turn this into another grievance that they have because they're going to be demanding that Roseanne Barr get her show back or some shit like that. Like, by the way, Republicans decided over the weekend that the hill that they were going to die on with this Jimmy Kimmel stuff was Roseanne getting fired for taking Ambien and posting racist shit. Could they not pick a worse hill to fight on? There is zero sympathy in this country for Roseanne. Sorry, take it, Jess. I can't get over like that's their hill they're dying on.
The American landscape is littered with hills that should never have been died upon.
Right, on the left and the right, frankly, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. No, that is true. But yeah, no, it is crazy. I think that they will come back on this, but I don't think as hard as anybody expects because again, we had a lot of people on the right objecting to this as well. It wasn't just the left. It is okay for Tucker Carlson to say, I hate Jimmy Kimmel and I don't agree with anything he says, but I disagree with what they have done here. And that's what he said. So for the right to then come back and be outraged about this, I don't know. I'm not sure I see that happening, actually. I think
I think the far right will be angry about it. Trump is not going to be able to help himself. Like, he might go a day, but the minute that Jimmy Kimmel's back on air, he's going to make another comment. But they lost the debate on this. And it's really important that they did because for an autocrat, look, like, let's call it, Trump is a fascist. Trump is using the power of the federal government to extend his reach. And in order for fascism to be defeated, you have to have these inflection moments where they try to do something where they, it's that Roman expression, or the wall's made of paper or they made of stone. In this case, the wall was made of fucking stone because we were able to push back against it. And
100%.
We haven't been able to do that everywhere. And I want to make this point because I think it's really important. Trump is one of the things that I think people miss about him. He's very careful with who he chooses as his opponent. And I've likened it this way, and this usually upsets some people in my comments, so I apologize. But like, there was a reason that when they did the ICE raids that led to them sending in the National Guard and the Marines, he did it in LA and not Detroit because he wants to be in a fight with Gavin Newsom instead of Gretchen Whitmer. He doesn't want to get into a fight with Andy Bashir. He wants to get into a fight with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is in my opinion, a pretty piss poor politician in my mind. The guy's got a 26% approval rating in the city of Chicago. So he wants to go after guys that he thinks make him look good by comparison. And he chose Newsom, and maybe he's regretting that choice now because Newsom, I think, has risen to the occasion in a pretty meaningful way. But there's a reason he's not going after Whitmer. He's not going after Bashir. He's not going after even Pritzker to a certain degree. He's kind of steering clear of Pritzker because Pritzker is a good politician, knows what to do. In this case, he sees Fallon, Kimmel, Colbert, and Seth Meyers of 4 late night hosts who are critical of him, but also don't have great ratings because the landscape is changing. And he can go after them as their soft targets. All of these networks want to cancel and end these shows, I believe, because none of them are particularly making money. You can make an argument, and I met with some guys that work in the space last week. They're telling me their biggest, like Colbert's biggest value to them is not the show necessarily. It's the fact that they have all that airtime to promote stuff. It's that he's like a good ambassador for them. So they kind of forgot that with Colbert. But these guys are all held back by that. I believe that they will make more money. They will have more reach, starting their own production companies, getting on Substack, getting on other places. Like, look at what Conan O'Brien did. I would argue to hell or high water that Conan is more relevant today in the lives of more Americans than he was when he had his show on TBS. And maybe he doesn't have the cultural influence he had in the 90s because it was a very different time. The media landscape's so bifurcated, but I watch every episode of Conan's show in a way that I never did with TBS. Never.
Interesting.
And if Colbert gets his own show, I'll be the first in line. Do you want to hear my pitch for a Colbert show, by the way? I have I think that Colbert should bring back the old Stephen Colbert character, the conservative, and he should host a version of The Five. And it should be Colbert as the frequent standing host as himself in character every night on like Substack or YouTube. And a rotating cast of either, I go back and forth on this, a rotating cast of other comedians who then build their own characters that show up in the show and comment on politics. Or you actually invite 4 real people and it's that Colbert character with like 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans and they have like a big debate and it's just a giant spoof of The Five. I think that sells. I think that sells so good.
I don't hate it. I'll tell you one thing I do think is that when they fired Jimmy Kimmel or when they did the suspension, I thought to myself, Substack has a real opportunity here to start a content channel. Like,
that's the Midas touch, inviting everybody who gets canceled out of there.
Totally. I mean, it's a real opportunity. He could come over here. Colbert could come over here. Yes. It is. These other places will pick these people up as the networks. I mean, the networks are dying anyway.
Yeah.
But it is, yes, I think it was a short-sighted move on their part. Even if these are not money-making shows, they are status-enhancing shows. I think there are a lot of people who are like, I only have ABC app because I watch Kimmel. There's just not that much good content on.
Well, it'd be like for creators like us, like I'm working my way through trying to put a concept together for a book. If you were to ask me like what my 5 goals for the book were, it would have 1, 2, 3, and 4 would have been about how useful they are. But 5 totally would have been, I want to end up on Colbert talking about my book. Like it would just be like, because it's like getting on the Daily Show. It's like getting on, I think for a creator, anybody in the public space like that, you make it when you get to go on the Tonight Show. Like for celebrities and comedians, that used to be the thing, was making it to Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show. So I think you're now kind of losing that. And I guess making it is like going on Rogan, which like, fine, I would gladly go on Rogan. By the end of that conversation, I would have him back as a Democrat. That would be my goal if I have to pick one. But yeah, we take him back. I take him back. You take him back?
I mean, I'll take anybody.
I'll take anybody.
Honestly, I have the biggest tent. My tent is so big you can't see the edges.
Yeah, my tent, I always tell people my tent is from Joe Walsh to Zoran Mondani. That's where my tent is. And I feel like that encompasses about most people that they're gonna vote for me. Let's take a pause for a second. We're gonna move to our next topic, but first I want to thank 2,300 people who are here in the first 20 minutes. Is amazing. I'm really proud and grateful for this community. Please make sure that you go subscribe to Jess's Substack. Please go find Jess Craven on every other social media site. She is phenomenal, and I'm a massive fan. And then for me, I'm Democratic strategist Mike Nellis. If you stumbled on my Substack, it's called Endless Urgency. Please make sure you subscribe. If you're willing to become a paid subscriber, it is $8 a month. Just help us a little bit out. We're doing 2 things I'm really excited about. First is we just bought a content studio. We're building a content studio here in the city of Chicago. We're going to start doing our own in-person interviews. We have our first guest lined up, which is Congressman Maxwell Frost in a couple weeks. I'm going to have to figure out how to get this space ready to go in time for Congressman Frost. I don't even have a good answer for that yet. And then we made our first hire. We hired a community manager that's going to help do a better job of managing the community, developing the content, getting clips out for distribution. So I really want to pay that person a living wage. Every bit that you help, every $8 a month goes a really long way. But everything will remain free for as long as I can. So don't feel pressured to do it. But if you're willing to help, I would appreciate it. So Jess, I want to get your reaction to, and I'll tee this up for a second, but RFK Jr. and the Maha movement they finally believe that they've come up with what causes autism, and today they're blaming Tylenol for it. Now, is there any actual evidence that Tylenol causes autism? No, there is not. And the largest, most robust study ever done about the link between Tylenol and autism suggested there is no link. They found nothing that was conclusive about it. Yet they are moving forward with recommending that pregnant women don't take it or take it in very small doses, which I'm just going to give you an example of like how far outside the mainstream they are on this. I was on News Nation or Newsmax today. Newsmax being, I would argue, one of the crazier places that I go into.
Oh, yeah.
They had a doctor come on, and the doctor was like right before me. So I'm giving the political commentary on it. They have a doctor come on. The doctor looks exactly like a MAGA doctor would, where it was just like big, long beard and like a backwards baseball cap. I was immediately like, this guy's a quack. And he was like, yeah, there's really no evidence that there's any link between Tylenol and autism. And this guy gave the most rational argument for it. And then they cut to me like I was a crazy person for arguing the same thing. But there's no link here. And I want to get your take on what the hell they're doing.
It's so crazy. I mean, first of all, Tylenol is a brand name, right? So the actual medication is called what? Acetaminophen?
Acetaminophen.
Right. So first of all,
we use it a lot in this house.
Well, doesn't everybody? But it's a really crazy thing because that medication is in all kinds of things. It's in Alka-Seltzer Plus, cold and flu medicine. It's in all kinds of things.
It's in Tums. Isn't it?
Yeah, right. But Trump went after the brand, which really weird. I don't know what's going on there, but you can almost guarantee that there's some kind of corruption behind the scenes with that as well. Like, I don't know, maybe he's getting money from the
investment in the Walgreens generic brand.
Who knows? But also,
you're only going to be able to get your Trump brand acetaminophen.
Right, exactly. Yes, Trump. Yeah, Trump ache. I mean, we've all got Trump ache at this point. But
I apologize to everybody for my bad Trump impersonation.
No, I thought it was good. It is more incompetence from an administration that wears incompetence like a badge of honor, which is a really sad thing. And this is a person who they have not done the studies. There are randomized controlled studies. There are data-backed studies you do. There was a woman I saw in ProPublica who has been working on the actual causes of autism for like 20 years. And she was like, to see somebody come out and say, I started my cabinet position here, and in just 5 months, I'm going to tell you the cause of autism. She's like, I've been working on this for 20 years. Right. There are peer-reviewed studies. There are steps you have to take. And she's been looking at a lot of environmental factors, chemical factors, pesticide factors, all of the things that the Trump administration is deregulating right now.
Right.
And actually ensuring that we will be exposed to more. And meanwhile, they're going after something that there is no proof has any impact on that every pregnant person takes because I've been pregnant. You can't take Advil. Tylenol is the only thing you can take if you have a headache or whatever.
Well, and for folks that don't know, it messes with the cardiovascular system of the baby if you take ibuprofen or other things like that.
Exactly. Right. So it's just, it is staggeringly sad to watch a department that has been looked up to as a department with great scientific credibility come out and do something so completely unscientific. But RFK, as we know, is a danger to public health. So he's doing more things to endanger public health, discredit himself, and unfortunately discredit the agency he's running and the president who keeps him in his position.
Well, and typically one of the things you would do is not politicize health in the way that they have. Like, this would be one of those things where it's like, don't fuck with that because you need to have a CDC and a Department of Health and Human Services that you can trust when there's a pandemic, which is a pretty important thing. Now, they would argue that we politicized the pandemic, which is ridiculous. They just didn't like that they had to take a vaccine. But I want to take a full step back on Maha for a second because the bottom 35% of what the Maha movement, or at least what RFK Jr. believes in, is actually right. And I think we should say that, which is he's done a good job identifying the issues that are at hand here, which is there are things in the food that we eat and the medicines that we take that are making us sick. America is a very sick country. And I say that as somebody who has a food addiction, used to weigh 600 pounds, lost 600 pounds. Now, there's certain things that he avoids talking about, I would guess, because of money. He doesn't want to talk about added sugar. Added sugar is by far the single biggest driver of cancer in this country that is unaddressed. And they are disinterested in talking about that. And that really bugs me. And it drives me nuts because Trump was like, oh, Mexican Cokes are great. And I'm like, I love a Mexican Coke. There's no person on this planet who loves a Mexican Coke more than Mike Nellis. But they're not healthy for you. Just because they have real sugar in them does not mean they're healthier. They're just better for you than aspartame that they put in Diet Coke. So we need to be careful here as a movement, as the progressive movement, the Democratic Party, to not allow them to co-opt our own issues. Because keep in mind, I think to a certain degree, Michelle Obama pushed really hard on the school lunches stuff, on healthiness, and they called her a damn communist for it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was all Democrats basically walked back on talking about health to the point where we gave an opening for somebody like RFK Jr. to own that issue and give voice to a lot of people who are not wrong about the things that they're worried about. Now, the flip side is RFK Jr. is a quack. He is not a scientist. He doesn't believe in the scientific community. He believes that vaccines cause autism, which there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence that Tylenol causes autism, and he's been wrong about literally everything. And my problem is, I think the vast majority of Americans would prefer to have doctors, scientists, healthcare professionals making the best possible decision with the best information that we have to keep people healthy and safe, not politicians like RFK Jr., certainly not Donald Trump, who eats 5 fillet of fishes a day. And I think that what they're doing is they're going to lose people's trust. And somebody just pointed this down here, like him going after pharmaceutical ads on TV. I am all for banning pharmaceutical ads on TV. That is a good idea. I hope they do it. I don't know that they will, but I hope that they do it. So again, there's like, we've got to be careful because I think with the MAGA movement overall, with Donald Trump overall, pretty good at identifying issues that Democrats have not done a good job talking about or identifying actionable solutions to. Terrible at solving them. So there's a lot of opportunity to reclaim this stuff. And I'm looking for my version of a Democrat who can reclaim this stuff without giving validation to RFK Jr. Because like what Jared Polis did, and I don't really have anything against Jared Polis, but Polis went like way too far in a pro-Maha way that I think really turned a lot of people off. But we need to reclaim a lot of this stuff. Same way I feel about government spending, same way I feel about the border, same way I feel about the economy, and even tariffs to a certain degree. We can reclaim those things because the problems are right. The solutions are horrendous.
Right. Well, this has always been MAGA's thing, right? And Trump's thing in general is that he is very good at naming the problem. Right. He named the problem that our government institutions were broken for a very long time when Democrats were still sort of hanging on to the idea that they would work if we just let them, whereas it really is true. Like the government systems are sort of broken. Like the status quo is broken. Trump identified that. It's just that he has absolutely no actual solutions. And Maha, same thing. And food dyes, good. Get rid of them. I 100% agree. Like, I am someone in my own house. I'm a vegetarian. My husband and I try not to use plastic. My husband bakes our bread so that we use less plastic. Like, we're those weird people who wash plastic bags.
Oh, we bake our own bread here.
Yeah, like,
and I'm not a crunchy liberal. I just like good sourdough.
Right, but I mean, like, so there's all kinds of things I would probably agree with someone like him on, but I also believe in science. And here's the thing I think is really funny, is that one of the other things he refuses to go after are plastics and microplastics in our bloodstreams, and also PFAS or PFAS, or however you say those. Like, these are things that they know are causing cancer, and who knows what else they're causing? But petroleum industry, baby, so we don't go after plastic. So, you lose your credibility when you won't go after anything that has a lobby that is backing the administration of which you are a part. So sorry, no credibility if you won't go after plastics in our bloodstreams. I just won't. Like, that is ridiculous to me.
Plastics is one of those things where, like, I think over time with more research, we're going to find out it's like lead in our paint. Like, it's just been fucking people up for a while, and we just didn't know.
I think they already have that research. It's been done. Yeah. And that's why to me, I'm like, why are you not going after that? It's in our fucking brain stems, this stuff.
Yeah.
No interest. Petroleum.
This is also on diabetes, which the rest of the world on Alzheimer's, which the rest of the world calls type 3 diabetes, because they're tying the link to autism rates to sugar. And the government is not interested in talking about that. And I think we should be telling more and more people about it, because the research on that shockingly clear. And when you're in Europe, they talk about that openly, about be careful about your sugar intake because it's causing autism and dementia, Alzheimer's and dementia in a pretty meaningful way, because we're so overloaded with sugar in our diets today, and our bodies we're not we're not built to handle this. It's supposed to be something you would get every now and again. You would get it naturally in like corn, not the way we're getting it now. It's a huge issue. I want to run a concept by you, something I'm working on. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to work on a book concept, and I'm going to do this in front of everybody, but I think you'll somebody who have an interesting perspective. So I've been rereading On Tyranny for folks who've read it before. I highly recommend it. One of the things I don't like about On Tyranny, and I want to give this idea to you, or I want to get your reaction to this idea, is the second rule of On Tyranny is to defend institutions at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I don't like about this book, and one of the things I want to write in my own book, is I want to give people a version of this while we're living through this time, but it being about their life and what they can control. That's sort of what I'm working on. It'd be like, defend institutions is such a big thing. And what I worry about for Democrats is I actually think this is bad advice, because the institutions that exist in America, whether it be big federal bureaucracies, whether it be the media, whether it be the Democratic and Republican parties, have actually been letting people down for a long time. And Trump's superpower is because he's so untethered to A, reality, but B, the existing systems, he doesn't feel the need to defend any of them. Like he'll shit on the Republican Party when it's good for him. He'll shit on the Democrats when it's good for him. He'll shit on anything. And there's a voice to that because a lot of people are sitting around going, this society doesn't work. Like, this isn't working for me. It's the same thing with defending democracy. I made this point. I did a show with Beth from Pantsuit Politics earlier today, and I made the point, like, we scream about defending democracy. If you're like under 40, where the economy has never really worked for you and you've never really seen a functioning government, you're sort of like, well, what has democracy done for me? Why would I believe it?
Right.
Why would I care about it? Now, if you're older, like I'm 37, but I remember what it was. I've been politically active for a long time, so I remember what it was like when it mostly functioned. It felt like it functioned even if I didn't like it in the Bush administration and the Obama years. You might not feel that way now, so you're not tied to it. And what Trump does is he attacks everything so aggressively. We're seen as defending a status quo that doesn't work. And I worry that we've got to get better about being like how we articulate our core critique of society and then what we're going to do with it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very fair point. I mean, I do, and it goes back to what we were saying before, that the American perception is that institutions are broken. And so, yes, I think there's probably truth to protect institutions at all costs if you're talking about institutions like democracy, voting, the CDC. I guess, yeah, it is, but it's very nuanced because, yes, a lot of institutions broken.
Yes.
Our campaign electoral system broken. Our
Very broken.
two-party system broken. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. Our relationship with, Israel possibly very broken. Like all of these things. So there's a lot of like sacred cows that we do need to stop and just sort of say, like, we need to re-examine this completely. We need to really like reimagine everything. And that is what I think the left, and I'm not going to say Democrats because I mean everybody who's not a MAGA Republican needs to come together and imagine something new and different. And I think that's why we see candidates who talk about things like universal child care, Medicare for all. These things get people excited because they're nothing like what we have now. And we know they can work. So, yes, I think instead of like going back and massaging what we have, we need, I hate to say this is such a cliche, but like bold leadership who will say, no, I want to go all the way. I want to go all the way to Medicare for all. I want to go all the way to, paid family leave. It's not even, these things are not even that big a deal, but in our country, they are.
So I would frame it this way, is like MAGA has a vision, but that vision is entirely rooted in grievance. That's all that it is. Everything is a grievance. Even like, not to talk about Kirk again, but like the whole way that they've reacted to Charlie Kirk is a grievance about how mad they are. They have to celebrate Martin Luther King Day every year. Like, that's what it is. Like, they want to create Charlie Kirk Day to make us feel that way once a year. Like, that is what it is. And it's gross. It's absolutely gross. And now, again, what happened to Charlie Kirk is terrible. Nobody should ever be killed for what they believe in. I don't care if you're Charlie Kirk or not. But, then the left, I feel like the left's, and I say the left broadly, like just use it, stick with me. I'm just tying a knot around anybody that's not MAGA, I think, as you said earlier. But it's entirely rooted in the idea of like protecting our institutions. And it just isn't enough for people. And I don't even think it's like a left-right paradigm anymore, because most people don't live in that paradigm. Like Sarah Longwell, who I'm going to have on the show, I want to say either this Friday or next Friday, talks about this a lot, where she's like, when she does her focus groups, 70% of people will be like, I am pro-life. And then you're like, do you support abortion rights? And they're like, yes, by 60%. And I'm like, see, like, no, the terms that we use don't matter to anybody. And I think we put people in boxes, and like, even me, like my politics, as a strategist, I'm very ideologically agnostic. Like, I don't like just work for establishment candidates. I don't just work for the left. I work with like, do you seem like you give a shit? Are you running a real campaign? Do you actually want to help people? Like, those are the metrics that I try to, and that's why I can do Bernie Sanders and feel perfectly comfortable doing that. I could do Michelle Wu and feel perfectly comfortable doing that. I could do Mallory McMorrow and feel perfectly comfortable. And they're all three different ideologies. And my personal ideology is like, I'm aggressively libertarian on basically every like personal issue. Like, government should leave you the fuck alone unless there's a clear public health risk. And then I'm big on a social safety net. I really truly believe there should be just a massive social safety net that supports people, and then we should have universal health care. We should pay off student loans. And I think that now I could sit here and tell you that that's what the majority of Americans believe in, but like I don't know if that's the case. I know it's what I believe in, but I know people are more situational because to a regular everyday American, they're like, how do I put food on the table? How do I retire with me? Can I take a vacation every now and again? Can I take a kid to a ball game? Can I afford to do the things I want to do to live comfortably? And that's another thing that I think we've got to get beyond. And then I want to hand the mic back to you, Jess, to get your thoughts on this. Like Democrats have gotten in this, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone. We talk about the economy that we're living through right now, and the economy is terrible. But we're talking about it in the context of like put food on the table, retire with dignity, maybe buy a house. We're not talking about how people can thrive. We're talking about how they can survive, because that's what feels achievable. We have to go one step further and go, here's a life that you can live that's of dignity and on purpose, but also is a lot of fun and lets you feel safe and secure. And like, is everybody going to be able to get that? No, I don't think that's achievable. But if you want it and you work hard for it, you should be able to get it. And it used to be that way in America. I think we can get there again if we can deal with income inequality and create the conditions for people to succeed.
Yeah, 100%. I think Americans have actually forgotten. And I mean, I even get this way sometimes. You forget that politics should be going on in the background, helping you live your life so that you can enjoy your life and pursue happiness, as it talks about in the, in the Constitution or in the Bill of Rights, the pursuit of happiness, that we should be able to not be worrying about healthcare and whether we can afford it, not be worrying about whether our kid is going to get shot at school today, which I worry about every day.
I worry about it every day.
Every parent does. That is not normal, right?
Do you do the thing? You have two kids, right?
I have one, but they're not binary, so I call them so that it confuses people.
Got it. But so like, how old is your
15.
Kiddo?
They're 15.
So like, even at 15, I'm just curious, 'cause I have a 6-year-old. Like when I drop him off at school, like I pull around the corner and I watch him walk into the school. Like I every morning I sit and I watch and I make sure he goes to the school. If he sits and talks to his friends, I sit there and I worry about him. And like, I thought 2 years into taking him to school, that would go away. Nope, I do it every morning. I can't, because I'm just so worried for him in every possible way. And I feel like to a certain degree, the government does have a responsibility to try to create the conditions where I feel like my son is safe in school, because I don't feel like he's safe.
It's not even to a certain degree. They have that responsibility. Otherwise, what the hell is the government even doing? And that's the thing, is that we Americans are shortchanging themselves so much. This is why I'm really starting to end a lot of my videos with the same phrase: America, you deserve better. Because I feel that we have fallen into sort of an abusive relationship with the Trump administration, where we literally have forgotten what a healthy relationship can look like with our government, where we are putting in our tax money and they are providing us with a great deal more than what we give them. That's the way it's supposed to work, and it does work that way in lots of countries. Nowhere is perfect, but our country, we have this insanely abusive relationship where I'm paying tax dollars right now to a government who is not doing one thing to take care of me or my child. Not one thing, right? I mean, I think we can all agree our tax money is going to ICE agents, and it's going to government corruption. It's going to literally Donald Trump making billions of dollars while in the presidency and making sure that all of his cabinet members and rich friends are also getting insanely richer than they were before.
Yep.
We deserve so much better. Even if Americans, we're not great people all the time, we deserve better. And the thing is, we can have it. And I think that is the message the left needs to come with, is this: you deserve better. This is bullshit. I think we need to hammer on corruption every single day, because this is the most corrupt presidential administration the United States has ever seen.
I say that every day. Every day there's a TikTok video. Yep.
Hands down. It is shocking, because it's not just Trump, although Trump is making billions off of his presidency right now. It's his kids, it's his family, and it is every single person in his cabinet. It's unbelievable. And this is something, and then I will hand the mic back to you, that, I talk a lot about the sort of like, I want to be in the Venn party, this Venn diagram of the things that all Americans agree on. And one of the things in there is government corruption. Everybody hates it. Nobody wants a corrupt government. And yet what we have right now is this deeply, brazenly corrupt government who they're not even trying to hide it anymore, because they have no respect for the American voter. Meanwhile, Americans are getting thrown under the bus in every way. One bus comes along and rolls over us, they throw us under another bus. We deserve better. We just do.
That is unbelievably well said, and I say this all the time, but one of my favorite things is when I'm just watching the show. Like when I just get to go, oh, Jess is talking, I need to shut up. Because like that was really well said, and I hope everybody heard that and that's a perfect segue into our final topic here while we still have 15 minutes. I do want to add one more final thought on this, and really to me it's the way we use government and the way we don't use government. And I'll give it to you this way. Like one, there's no, as far as I know, there's no small government conservatives left. This is not the conservative movement of our fathers and our grandfathers. They are a big government conservative party, maybe. Certainly they believe in, and let's talk about what they're using the government for. They can use the government to get a comedian they don't like suspended. They can use the government to bail out the country of Argentina because Donald Trump is aligned with I forget his last name, Mullane. How do you say his name? This is a government that can go after Harvard because Donald Trump's kids couldn't get in. This is a government that can give tax breaks to billionaires who don't need them. But anytime anybody on the left is like, God, maybe we should do something about the sandwich generation who's taking care of their kids and taking care of their parents. Maybe we should do something about people who are drowning in student loan debt. Maybe we should do something about people who are going bankrupt because they get sick. Maybe we should do something about the job market. No, the job market's super hot and the government can't do anything about that anyway. Inflation's bad. Oh, the government can't do anything about that. You're a communist for believing you do that. So we can do all of this shit, which is self-serving for Donald Trump and the conservative movement, but we can't do anything that helps regular people. And it's the whole theory of the case for me behind why I called it endless urgency, is because they are endlessly urgent to steal and thieve and destroy and hate. And we need to take that same urgency and creativity, but use it to help people. And if we don't, if the next version of the Democratic Party that ascends to power, and one way or another, we will reascend to power in this country, again, I believe it will be at the voting booth. I hope it's not the other way, but we will ascend back to power. We need to be prepared to do what's necessary. So I'm gonna take one break and then we'll get into our final topic here, which is just to say 3,100 people. This is amazing. We've reached the point where Substack starts to glitch because there's so many people watching it, which means we're doing good. I hope it's not glitchy for you guys. It's just glitchy on my end. Please make sure that you subscribe and go follow Jess Craven on every major social media platform. She is phenomenal. Please go and subscribe to me. I'm Mike Nellis, Democratic strategist. My Substack is completely free for everybody, but it is $8 a month to help support the work. Like I said earlier, we're doing some really cool stuff, building an in-person studio, hiring a community manager and a video editor to help. Really want to pay them a living wage, so everybody who supports us gets to help support those people who are going to be doing really, really important work to get our voices out there. And I'm really excited about it. So Jess, I want to get your final thoughts, but we still have like 10 minutes here. On Tom Homan. And I'm so excited to talk about this because I want to set it up for you how I experienced this Tom Homan news, which I was so grateful for. And I'm watching the Notre Dame game this weekend. Notre Dame is beating Purdue, but they're not beating them by as much. I'm frustrated. There's a minute left at halftime, and it's about to be halftime. And all of a sudden, there's a lightning strike, and the game goes on the weather delay for like 2.5 hours. And I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? I've spent my whole weekend getting ready for football. I don't know what to do. And I look down, and there's this breaking news story about Tom Homan taking a $50,000 bribe. And I was like, I get to go to work to go after somebody who's corrupt, who I don't like. And I was so grateful for the opportunity to do that, not just because it's fun. And it is fun to go after people like Homan who are so braggadocious and just assholes and crooks, but also because the right's reaction to it was so unhinged. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want to get your reaction first.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's stunning, and you have to put it in tandem with the other bit of news we got, which is Donald Trump pressuring Pam Bondi, what he thought was behind the scenes, but was actually very publicly, for her to go after his enemies harder. So particularly Letitia James, right? I mean, but there's others. So he's basically asking Pam Bondi to take the DOJ, which is supposed to be an independent, they are supposed to have nothing to do with presidential pressure, right? And the Republicans accused Biden of and Obama of putting all kinds of pressure on the DOJ when they actually weren't. Now we have evidence of Trump putting pressure on the DOJ to go after people he doesn't like with baseless charges that other prosecutors have already said there's nothing here. We can't prosecute this. While meanwhile forcing them to drop charges or drop a case when Tom Homan has taken a bag of cash, a Cava restaurant bag.
It was at Cava? I missed that detail.
Oh, no, it was Cava. Probably
every detail I learn, it's like even better. I hate to just enjoy the schadenfreude on this, but like I'm fucking excited about it.
These guys all like the food bags for their cash bribes.
Incredible.
But a kava bag filled with $50,000, right? And the FBI didn't even mean to investigate him. They had to, because they
Right.
were getting so much evidence that this guy, Tom Homan, is so corrupt. But here's the thing. So Tom Homan, basically, his whole thing was, you give me cash, I will make sure you get contracts in the new Trump administration, right? That's wrong. By the way, if you're wondering, that's corrupt. That is wrong, wrong, wrong. So now you fast forward to this, and you could have people going, well, okay, well, I mean, whatever. That was one time. But this is what he's doing with every single private prison group that is
Right.
now imprisoning the people that the Trump administration is detaining. Like, does it ever occur to people that not only is mass deportation morally abhorrent and economically suicidal, but it is also simply for the purpose of enriching the private prison groups who are kicking that money back to Trump and his cabinet?
Yep.
It is unfucking believable that anybody falls for this grift, and yet they do. So again, this is just more proof of the unbelievable corruption of the Trump administration, and you can find a similar story for every single person in his cabinet. Trump himself not only is enriching himself by the billions of dollars, but has already given, he has pardoned 16 corrupt politicians. Go and look at the people he has pardoned or given amnesty to. 16 of them were corrupt politicians. Why?
Yep.
Because he's got to take care of his own.
Yep.
It's
And
unbelievable.
and look, he's going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell at the end of the Epstein case. He's going to pardon Senator Menendez for sure for taking bribes from, it was the Cuban government, I believe, right?
Yeah.
He's going to do all of that. I mean, pardon Rod Blagojevich, for fuck's sake, which is the most obvious example of Illinois corruption I've ever seen in my entire life, which for Illinois is really saying something. I want to get into the right's reaction to the Tom Homan stuff, because it truly was incredible. And for folks who maybe don't partake on X, like I do at least. Are you on X?
I am, but I don't like to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm only there to read threads.
I'm an X lifer. Unfortunately, I think it is my preferred site that I'm on. Although Threads is really, I love Threads. If you're part of my Threads community, I love the comments on Threads so much. You guys are great. Blue Sky, I can't. Blue Sky's a little too crunchy for me.
I don't like
love
Blue
you
Sky.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're on Blue Sky, I love you to death, but it's just a little much for me. But there are three core arguments that the right-wing media ecosystem, I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget, has been arguing about why it's okay for Tom Homan to take this bribe. The first one is, and I'm not making this up, the deep state made me do it.
Oh, God.
Which is, so just to make sure people understand, they're arguing that the FBI entrapped him to take a $50,000 bribe. So explain to me the circumstances where it is appropriate to take a $50,000 bag in a kava home with you. The only time I think you're allowed to have that much money is if you win a poker tournament, which I did once do. I once won a poker tournament for $30,000 and to go to the bank and explain it to them, which was a nightmare.
That's incredible.
The second, and this is, Megyn Kelly said this, not quite verbatim, I'm condensing it, but she was basically like, we don't care because he's deporting so many people. And I have to say, I find it very refreshing to go, I'm too racist to care about corruption.
Yeah.
I sort of admire the honesty on that one. Yeah. And the final one is my favorite because it's so stupid. It's he wasn't in office, so it's not corruption yet because it happened, I believe, post-election, but before he took office. So they're arguing, one, that you cannot try someone for public corruption before they take office, which is ridiculous. Like, you could try anyone for corruption. If you take a bribe to do something, it is illegal to take bribes for almost anything. And so that's number one. Number two, it's just super lazy to argue this point. It's almost as lazy as when they argued that Donald Trump was an informant for the FBI to get Jeffrey Epstein. Sure. I was like, how stupid do you think we are that this is the argument that you have? And so once again, it's like, I don't know if you read my piece today in Substack, but one of the things that I wrote about today is Donald Trump wants to become the single source of truth. And we see that in the lies that he tells and the institutions that he breaks down, like ruining the BLS so they can't report the inflation numbers is bad. But he also wants to become a single source of morality. He wants to be able to tell you what is right and what is wrong. So he basically says by having Pam Bondi and Kash Patel cover this up, Tom Homan didn't do anything wrong. He's not corrupt. Everything's great. So the MAGA movement falls fully in line with that. So he's a source of truth for this movement, but also a source of right and wrong. And that is not a great place for them to be in.
No, it's not. And also everyone is supposed to have their own independent moral compass. That's the whole point of being a human being. You develop your own ability to discern right and wrong.
Correct.
And if you're outsourcing that to a man who obviously has dementia and is one of the most amoral human beings ever end as a malignant narcissist, you've really lost the thread. This is wrong. Everybody knows it's wrong. So, yeah, but this is what they do. You're right. They've outsourced it all. And there will be a time where they will be held accountable.
Right. They act like, and this was Barry Weiss's op-ed that I referenced earlier about the Jimmy Kimmel stuff was, hey, do you guys know that Democrats will be in power again? Like, that's basically the whole purpose of it, is like, you're celebrating this abuse of the federal government. Do you know that someday our political opponents will be back in power and they will feel more empowered to do shit like this? And I think that a lot of, especially Trump is like, I'm out of here in 4 years. So like, they're never going to do anything to me. But the rest of the MAGA movement that has to continue to try to move this country forward, and I mean, again, I would argue they're grabbing it backwards, but they want to move their movement forward. They're not thinking through that we can use power this way, which, by the way, is a reflection of what they think about us. And if I have anything to say about the next version of the Democratic Party, we will use power to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. And I'm not going to put up with any fucking excuses about how we can't do X, we can't do Y, we don't have this, we don't have that. Like, get shit done at this pace. And if you don't, you're going to lose me as a supporter for sure.
Yeah. 100%. And go after Fox News the same way they're going after our media. I mean, that's what I said. You want to start going after media? Why don't we go after the propaganda channel that is Fox News? I mean,
suddenly they care about the truth when it has to do with, like what Jimmy Kimmel said really wasn't that bad, because the point that he was making was about how he was just cracking a joke about Trump being so desperate to make this guy out to be a not a MAGA guy. And I don't think this kid who shot Charlie Kirk was a MAGA guy, but that's what they're going after him for. Meanwhile, on Fox News, you can just say anything. I mean, they completely
kill
lied.
all the homeless people. They literally said kill all the homeless people.
Right. Well, let's just talk about some of the most prevalent lies that have been on Fox News where they've gotten sued and lost before. They lied about the murder of Seth Rich, who was a young DNC employee, who, by the way, was a friend of mine. They lied about his murder. Sean Hannity got sued. They lied about election fraud in the 2020 election. They got sued and they lost because a private entity moved forward with that. So maybe there needs to be more stuff like that on the left, and maybe there needs to be a coordinated effort while we're out of power to do that. Somebody's got to bankroll all of that, but like, there's no reason you probably couldn't build an apparatus to go after Fox or the Laura Loomers of the world that looks an awful lot like what Hulk Hogan and Peter Thiel did to Gawker. And I don't know why a billionaire on the left has not had the balls to fund something like that, because it seems like that's something that you could do pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. We have to take the gloves off. We have to take the gloves off, and we have to come after all of this. And you're right. Democrats will lose voters if they don't show that they know how to fight, which is why I think we need new leadership, which is a whole other conversation that we don't have time for. But we need fighters. We need fighters in every leadership position in the Democratic Party.
They will lose me. I'm not putting up with a weak-willed Democratic Party anymore. Like, I'm not. I want a Democratic Party that fights as hard as they fight, and I want to do it for good. Like, I don't want to lose sight of who we are. I don't want to lose sight of our values. I don't want to lose sight of what we're fighting for. But God damn it, I'm not putting up with this anymore. Like, I feel like I spent 20 years as a young up-and-comer in the room, finding my voice, occasionally having the balls to say something that they didn't like. I'm sorry I keep using the phrase balls today. I don't know what's wrong with me. But like, but I'm tired of it. It can't be sustainable anymore. We need a new version of this party. And I think that's probably a good place to close. Jess, do you have any closing thoughts for the group? I want to give you the last word.
It's just been really fun talking to you. I've loved it. I look forward to coming back again because you're great to talk to. And thank you all for tuning in. How exciting to talk to everybody.
And you're amazing. And everybody, please make sure you go follow Jess on all social media platforms. Please go if you want to become a paid subscriber. $8 a month to help us fuel this work. It's really important. We're doing some cool stuff. 3,400 people on a Monday afternoon is amazing. My phone is literally dying right now. Everything's so slow. I appreciate all of you so much. I can't stress enough how important this community is to me in this moment to get through all this stuff. I love you guys so much. Jess, you are amazing. Please keep doing the great work that you're doing. I'll be back tomorrow, everybody, with our friend Stefan. We'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, Mike. See you later, guys.
Yeah.